As fellow entrepreneurs, it's always our objective to think about our client. In fact, great entrepreneurs that I've met over the years, they're the ones who really obsess over the client and their client experience. Great entrepreneurs that I've met, they think about what do my clients want? What do they need? What are they feeling? How do they see every interaction that they have with my company? And I know that advisors spend many, many sleepless nights thinking about, am I doing the right thing? Am I giving my client the right experience? Because the experience that your client has with your company, that becomes your brand. And your brand is what will create long-term sustainability in your business. And if you have a strong brand of competence and creating remarkable client experiences, then your current clients will almost be compelled to tell their friends and family all about your business, all about why they should do business with you. And that becomes your source of growth, the source of new business. And it really is a way better than, marketing here and doing this and doing that. And I've been at this for a long, long time. And in my experience, it's the companies who really focus their attention on creating those remarkable little moments for clients that have that sustainability of new growth. And so as a result, I think we should always be, and our team should always be, looking for ways to dazzle and delight our customers, right? But does it always go right? Sometimes things go wrong. We are in a business, and in fact, if you're in the wealth management business, like I am, there's lots of complexities. Things go wrong sometimes often, and you can either, sort of gloss over them or use a process to create full satisfaction and use these little moments to actually delight your clients, because mistakes are going to happen. It's inevitable. And when they do, and if it's done right, they can turn a sometimes very negative view of yourself, your business, the team, and it can create a delight. In other words, it can turn a negative into a positive. And when it does that, sometimes that positive is even a greater event because the expectations were so low. It happens time and time again. And so I thought for this podcast, I want to give you a real-time personal experience, something that actually happened to me. And I was just so overwhelmed that I felt compelled to tell everyone about it. Since my new role as the executive chair, I generally take December off and travel. And we do sort of adventure travel all over the place. And this year, we decided to go to Africa. And we were going to the Seychelles. And, it was my birthday trip. For those who don't know, my birthday is January 1st. So the whole world celebrates my birthday. But here we were just after Christmas. So now it's between the Christmas and New Year's holiday. And 4 days prior to our arrival, we get an email from the hotel that we're about to go to for my birthday in the Seychelles, stating that there was a mishap with the reservation. There was something wrong with the reservation system, and the room that we actually wanted was no longer available. Now, they gave us a bunch of options, but none of them were really even close to what we were expecting. So needless to say, what was a great anticipation, what was supposed to be a great positive, turned into a huge negative. And to say that we were disappointed would be an understatement. And we expressed our much dissatisfaction to the hotel manager. We were polite, but certainly very firm on our fact that we had booked this 6 months in advance, and this was an issue. Now, we actually thought and almost wrote it off that this was going to happen. And to be fair, most companies would have ignored our dissatisfaction. But this company turned a negative into a positive. The hotel manager, this is between Christmas and New Year, took it upon herself and actually rebooked us at a different hotel. It was in the same region. It wasn't far. You can probably see each hotel from it. But it was the room that we had requested. She had found that there was another hotel that actually had a room like the one that we had requested, with even more amenities and even a better view. And in fact, the room at the new hotel that was booked was actually more expensive than our original booking with the hotel and the manager who had done all this work on our behalf. Not only did this original hotel manager make all the arrangements for the new hotel, they also paid for the whole second hotel, the differential. So in other words, there was no money out of our pocket. On top of that, they arranged the transportation to the new location at their own expense. I was floored that somebody took it upon themselves within and again, it was a luxury hotel brand, but the fact that they had taken time out of their holiday season between Christmas and New Year to solve our problem. And boy, what would have been, a big disappointment out of a great travel experience turned out to be, and I've had lots, one of the best customer services decisions I've ever witnessed. I was so impressed. I can tell you that not only am I doing a podcast about it right now, but I must have told at least 50 people. And if anyone's going to the Seychelles, I would undoubtedly recommend this hotel for your stay. It was just outstanding. So what do we learn out of all this? That that sometimes mistakes happen, right? We know that, right? Mistakes happen in business. People make errors, systems break down, communication is misunderstood. There's a general messiness in the world that interferes with sometimes delivering on our promises. But when these things happen, if we want to build trust with our customers, we always have to do what's right, right? So that our relationship with each and every customer is built on trust. And sometimes to do what's right actually costs money. It costs money, it costs inconvenience, it costs time. And yet, if it's done right, it can turn a very negative experience into an outstandingly positive experience on a go-forward basis. It can help be one of the fundamental cornerstones of your brand. At every moment, your customers have to understand three things at all times: what you stand for, what you're going to deliver, and how reliable you are. And if you keep these in mind all the time, what you stand for, what you're going to deliver, and how reliable you are, these are the things that build trust. You always, always, always have to continue to stand for a principle. And if you stand for a principle, consumers understand those principles and they can tell other people about them. If you can be very clear on what you're going to deliver, as I say, expectations are the thief of joy, right? Be very clear on what you can deliver, but more importantly, what you can't deliver. And this builds that trust in the mind of the consumer. And then, how reliable are you? And again, in a world where it's almost taken for granted that people are going to be unreliable, the bar on reliability is set exceptionally low. For those who can be reliable 100% of the time, that's very meaningful, and it has a great impact on the ability for your clients to recommend you to other people. You're always looking for ways to demonstrate this. So if they don't get the chance to see your trust values in action, what happens is mistrust takes over at a much greater rate. Right? And customers will tell one or two people about a positive experience. But let me tell you, if you have a negative experience, they will tell everyone they will ever meet and everyone they have ever met. So always try to look for these opportunities when a negative experience comes up. How do I turn them into positives? And you should also empower your team, because when you're open to making decisions that put the customer first, rather than just following protocol. And you've heard this all the time. It's not our protocol, or it's not our process, or it's not how we do things. That doesn't help the client relationship. In fact, that erodes trust. But to create trust by offering consistency and value and things that are truly important to your customers, these are the things that build the business. You also have to maintain that trust by always doing exactly what you promised to do. Right? If you say you're going to do something and you're going to deliver it on Friday, deliver it on Friday. But if for any reason that it can't, make sure that you're very clear and also what you're going to do to turn that negative into a positive. In fact, to maintain trust, sometimes it costs you money. In other words, be willing for a short-term financial loss to create a great brand over the long term, just like my experience proves. For all entrepreneurs, remember this: your clients' problems are your problems. You're in this together. And if they clearly understand that this is a partnership, that you care about what they want, and you can always make things right when they go wrong, that gives you that ability to stand out into the marketplace, to create that circle of trust within your client base, so that they will continue to refer you time and time and time again. So this was a very valuable lesson that I've learned. I've talked about it before, certainly at the firm, about how we always need processes to look after when things go wrong and how do we make it right. And sometimes it's going to cost us money. But this was an example that I actually lived. And I can tell you, being on the receiving end of this particular client experience, it changed my entire view of this particular brand. And any excuse that I have on a go-forward basis to stay at this particular brand of hotels, let me tell you, I will do it, because they have earned my trust. So let me ask you, can you think of examples where companies have turned negatives into positives, where they've enhanced their actually brand value to you by making a negative experience better for you, even when it costs them money? I would love to talk about them. You know, I love to talk about many, many business stories. So if you have some of these examples, just go to the show notes, hit the link, hit me up on there, and I would love to have a virtual coffee with you and chat all about all of these experiences. Because take this one point from this particular podcast: look for times to, even positive or negative, look for times to delight your clients, and you will provide sustainability in your business.